When kids don't show up at school, they can wind up in trouble with the law. Truancy is a problem in Kentucky, with 1 out of every 4 students considered chronically absent. What can be done about it? Before juvenile justice reforms of the last decade in Kentucky, judges and school staff in Louisville created one of the first truancy diversion programs in the nation. Our June Leffler has this look back for our series, Beyond the Bench.
Like 30 days of school.
19.
I missed 20 days.
15.
These middle school students participated in a court diversion program in the early 2000s. These were the kinds of kids that might wind up on a family court docket.
I was having kids come into my courtroom, and some of them missed 20, 30, 40 days of school. And the question was, what were my tools at hand to help these kids re-engage in the school process?
From the bench, Joan Beyer felt she couldn't do much. Simply ordering a kid to show up to school did not get them to school.
Does wearing a black robe and sort of this judicial process really mean anything if I don't sort of carry through with my word? You know, I'm a parent, right? I told you 3 times to do that, or I'm going to fill in the blank.
Beyer spoke publicly about this, saying truancy alone was no reason to bring students before a judge, especially in light of what some kids were going through at home.
Just telling a kid that's homeless to go to school where they haven't eaten or had anywhere to sleep the night before is unrealistic and unkind. It's cruel to punish children for things that are happening in their life that are outside of their control.
The alternative was truancy court diversion. Beyer made visits to Mazik Middle School, where she met then-student Lavelle White.
Sometimes I just wasn't wanting to be engaged in school, too, because of my life. And it was challenging and hard.
White would find his way. Today, he's a community coordinator for Metro Parks, getting folks of all ages out in nature. Before that, in his late teens, he became a documentarian.
Things can be unfair sometimes, the way your family conditions, the way you was raised.
White featured the historically black communities he grew up in, like the neighborhood around Mazik Middle School.
And there was some days I didn't barely make it to school, and I live right next door to school.
He had his reasons.
Whether it be my mother and my brother arguing or fighting, me and my brother fighting, or lack of resources of clean clothing and food, or me being not comfortable and wanting to get in school, going to school because I was getting picked on.
White and countless others, over the course of nearly a decade, made their way through one of the nation's first truancy court diversion programs.
The motto was, whatever it takes.
Judge Beyer would wear her judge's robe. She had her gavel.
And we all just got together and said, we can do this and make it happen.
Court was in session every Thursday.
So those kids would stay, and then the parents would come. If the parents couldn't get there because they didn't have the transportation, then we'd go pick them up and bring them to school, and then take them back home.
They had the serious moments where, hey, you missed these days, you've been tardy this amount of time. What can we do to help you to get to school? And then they kind of give incentive-based. Sometimes they will have like dinners for families and lunches.
Positive reinforcement, affirmative responses and clapping and encouragement. And we'd encourage the students to encourage each other. It sounds a little bit hokey, but it worked.
Stefan Gilkey lived by the whatever it takes motto.
If a parent couldn't go and get little Johnny glasses, so, okay, give me the medical card. We'll go down there, we'll get the glasses.
And if he knew where a student lived?
Mr. Gilkey would have to come and get me out of bed.
We had like a 5-minute route. Brush your teeth, wash your face, let's go.
But the program could not solve everything.
Some kids did end up in foster care, to be honest with you, as part of the court process in this.
White didn't wind up in court, but his mom did. And by the time White was done with 8th grade, he still wasn't going that often.
No, I was not.
But the adults that ran truancy court weren't going anywhere.
A saying that we had in Mazik, you're never too old to come back to see us.
Gilkey stayed in touch and opened his home to White, who was a frequent guest at Christmas.
Just one of the family members, and everybody treated him like that, and everybody gave him gifts, everybody just loved LaVale.
He would go to college, and Gilkey took him to campus.
He was the de facto Mr. White because my mother or my father couldn't go.
Yeah, I sat through that all with him to make sure his financial aid was right, to make sure that everything was right where he was going to stay. Sometimes when you build a real relationship, it usually never changes.
It turned out that the whatever it takes motto also meant as long as it takes. For Kentucky Edition, I'm June Leffler.